You're listening to the Whole Church Podcast, a proud member of the Anazal Podcast Network. Our efforts to educate and unite the church are made possible thanks to our sponsors on Patreon, Captivate, and Apple Podcast. You could join them on one of those networks, or you can support the show by making a one-time tip on our Captivate website down below in the show's description.
Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 7 through 10 read, "For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of streams of water, of fountains and springs, flowing out in valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines, fig trees, and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat without shortage, in which you will not lack anything, a land whose stones are iron, and of whose hills you can dig copper. When you have eaten and are satisfied, you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you." And this pericope of scripture, it's talking to the Israelites about the land they were promised, a physical land that they're about to walk into. A lot of times in our New Testament scriptures, we look back to the Old Testament promises of an even greater promise to come. And it's interesting in the Christian context, we always want to think about heaven and earth after we die. But a lot of those promises are for us now in Christ. Mark Flower, this verse talks a lot about food.
It does.
What part do you think food plays in the promises we have in God even today?
I think just the thankfulness that we all have for the food that we have. I mean, look at these verses right here, and although it doesn't say outright, we thank you for this food of barley and vines and fig trees, but I think there is an underlying sense of thanks that, it's God that provides, and we trust in God so that we are thankful that this food is provided from, our Creator, our Redeemer, our one that we look towards. And I think there's something so beautiful that we have adopted into our own lives and our own traditions today in this modern world, and it's why we say thanks at a dinner table. It's why we say prayers and give that thanks and gratitude towards God. So I think that's one of the big things with food that we can attribute towards God.
Yeah, good stuff. Hey everybody, welcome to the Whole Church Podcast. I got a surprise bonus for you. It's going to be a quick, 15-20 minute thing. Chill. I know we said we were going to have a week off, but we never really do a week off. It's not what we do here. We're the Whole Church. We work hard. We don't. I don't even edit these videos. It's fine. But I'm not here with the reason for podcasts. TJ, Tiberius One, the Podfather, the God of all pods, insert other really exaggerated things about the lore of TJ here. But I am here with the one who is breaking bread for us all on his podcast, Grub Grace. We have the one and only host, Mark Flower. Mark, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Man, I'm excited for this. We've been doing a couple episodes over there on Grub Grace. I got to guest with you talking about Christian Taoism and then food and video games, which turned out to be a way longer episode than we expected. But man, we've been having fun talking about food and faith and games. And I think we touched on Captain America a little bit. You had Will on there talking about Captain America more, but it's fine. It's not like he has a shield in his office, but it's cool.
And I'm always up for another Captain America talk. So if you want to, we can totally plan another one too.
Yeah, let's do it now. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I'm excited for this. We're just going to kind of introduce you guys to what is Grub Grace, talk about it, because it's a show I really love and I'm passionate about. So I want to force my listeners to hear Mark and then be like, man, I want to hear more, and then have to go hit subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Yeah, this is just blatant manipulation, but it was going to be a fun one. I don't usually do TJ's parts, but I know you're supposed to go to YouTube or something and check out our merch store, that kind of stuff. Hit subscribe, etc. Check out other shows in the podcast network, the Anazal Podcast Network. Brandon Knight, Kung Fu Pizza Party. Mark's been on his show recently as well. Brandon also
pizza toppings with Kung Fu films and Kung Fu actors.
God, it was great. Yeah. It inspired some other ideas for me, and I have unlimited ideas for unfortunate reasons. I've also been doing some more unique stuff with Dummy for Theology. We might even be renaming that show to Be Living Water. I'm thinking about it. we'll see. So guys, check that out. Let me know what you think about the name change if I do it. And then what's another one? Systematic Ecology recently had Brandon Knight over on it to talk about Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. So if you want more Kung Fu, we're eating up the Kung Fu content right now. And the food content, So it's going to be fun. You guys know I have a holy spiritual practice we do for everything over here, even bonus episodes, because I can't help it. It's, of course, silliness. We can't have church unity without a little bit of silliness. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. It's holy. But Mark, today's silly question that I'm thinking of as I speak, so I'm making this a really long sentence. I think I got it. If you had to guess which sci-fi world has the absolute worst food, what's it probably going to be?
Oh boy. Well, I can tell you the one that's absolutely not going to fall in this category is Star Trek. They're going to have the best food.
I was thinking the same thing because they're all about culture.
Oh boy. I mean, Star Wars, I feel like is always up there. You got that blue milk. Nobody knows what the blue milk is. People seem to like it in the world, but
have you had the blue milk in Galaxy's Edge?
No, I haven't.
It's so good, especially with rum. But I think that about most things. I like rum in things.
Oh boy, I'm blanking on a lot of other sci-fi type of things. I think anything in like kind of based on a reality, so not non-Star Wars, non-Star Trek, all that kind of stuff, but more like Event Horizon or something like that, where it's based in, or like Alien or something like that, where it's a little bit more kind of leveled at home. I think anything in space, like the space foods, I think would be probably on the lower end. I don't know. What do you think? What would be a good sci-fi?
This is gonna be weird because I think it's technically our universe, but I think this will probably have both the best and worst foods. C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. Because you have planets that never fell, so that there's completely without sin. They're just doing life great. And I bet those planets probably have some killer food options, like great cuisine. And then you have foods that are planets that are even worse than ours somehow, that are ruled by angels that are I don't know, I guess worse than Lucifer. I'm unsure. I bet one of those planets have awful food and one of those planets have the best food. So I'm thinking that's probably just the perfect answer.
I think maybe even a good place, and bear with me on this. So okay. I don't think most people would consider it a sci-fi, but if you think it is very, they have these different realms of this afterlife that takes place in the whole show. And if you think maybe not the current timeline within the show, but there might be another world where in order to torment the people, they tell them that the food is wonderful, but it could be really bad. And in doing so, they're trying to manipulate them and gaslight them into thinking that they're actually having really good food when actually they're really tormenting them with really bad food.
Or it could be another Eleanor situation where it's oh, they mistook you and they think you're accidentally in the good place, but it's really the bad place. And you're trying to pretend you're whatever they think you are. And they tell you you're a great chef. And then all your food always turns out awful, but you have to eat it and act like it's good. That would be great. Yeah. Oh, man. I like to do shop talk in the middle of episodes because that's not what you're supposed to do. But we're going to be doing a Good Place episode on systematic ecology, I think, next month. Mm-hmm. You should totally join us for that. It's going to be fun.
Let me know.
I'm trying to get Aaron Simmons to join us too, but I'll get back on that.
Cool.
For now, Mark, so one of the things we have found that helps with church unity is just kind of hearing one another's story. So before we get into what your podcast is, would you kind of just break down what's your faith tradition? What did you grow up in? And just kind of where you find yourself with the church now, and maybe if you could throw in how you started Grub Grace, we'll just rant.
Okay. Where I stand right now is I've got a hodgepodge of just ideas in my head, and I'm still trying to figure out where I stand in belief and belief. I'm still very situated in Jesus has died for our sins and the traditional sense of that. But as far as other faith traditions and church life and all that kind of stuff, and just the ideas that the traditional Christian belief should be in the world, what people expect. Mm-hmm. I'm still working through a lot of that and figuring out where I stand on some of these stances and topics and that sort of thing. I grew up in a very traditional home. I wouldn't say it was anything extreme ideas. It was just kind of, following what, the church, the general church kind of, tells us to live, and they, examining the Bible and whatnot. So I grew up in that sort of environment. I started to kind of question things when I got to college. I went to a very conservative Christian university. And so I was around a plethora of people that were very much in that mindset, but there were also a number of people that were questioning things and really challenging the status quo of Christendom. And so I think that kind of allowed me to process things. But even still, at that point, I was just kind of blasé, just kind of, going about life and not really giving it too much thought of that. I was, enjoying life, enjoying college, enjoying friendships and that sort of thing. I think it was really until a few years after I got out of college, and especially during COVID too, where just really things just shook for me. And I came across one of those social media pages, the Preachers and Sneakers. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Yeah.
It basically highlights all these mega church pastors and their opulent wealth that they put on full display, their outward piety that they show. And it would show, the price tag for their particular shoes or jeans or, things that they have that they're wearing during their sermons. And it really just kind of shook me. And that opened the door to like Julie Roy's, to the new evangelicals, and then one of my friends, April LaJoy, I went to school with her, and it opened the door to her podcast at the Evangelical-ish at the time, but since she's left and joined the new Evangelicals. But it opened up the door to all these people, and then I went to Theology Beer Camp. That's when I think it was the week before Theology Beer Camp, I started posting my episodes for Grub Grace, but I didn't start creating the content. I think I started creating about a year and a half before that time, before this last fall. And, but I was kind of going about it, the idea of, I wanted to focus on food in the Bible, eating food, harvesting food, all sorts of food, just food ideas in the Bible. And so it would be like more of a deep dive. So I got my guest, talked about that. I actually recorded a bunch of episodes, and those are actually a lot of my earlier episodes are those episodes that I created a year and a half before I even started releasing anything. Yeah. And then since Theology Beer Camp, getting into this community of people that were also questioning things and accepting you for where you were in your faith journey, no matter what that looked like, it kind of allowed me to think freely and allowed myself to kind of be myself on the podcast and start creating content that I wanted to create as opposed to what I felt like I needed to create. So that's kind of where it sits right now. And so we've had conversations of Christian nationalism. Is it good for society? We've had talks about religious harm from the church. And I had Mike Mayashiro on there, and he used to be in the church, and he got ousted because they thought he was gay at the time. He was, he's always gay. And he now advocates for religious harm that has been done by the church, and he holds safe spaces for that. So I have got all these conversations that are opened up to a lot more broad topics as opposed to just deep diving into the Bible. So that's kind of where everything stands right now for Grub Grace. Yeah,
one thing I've loved just talking to you is kind of like, you're not fully like liberal or conservative, you're very nuanced thoughts. You're like thinking through stuff, just like a lot of us, where we're like, you're not completely sure where we are, but we have ideas on different things, and we're kind of wrestling with a lot of these ideas. I'm doing a couple comments on stuff because there was a report on Tim Winokur when it comes to like the new evangelicals that had to do with like abuse, but not like sexual abuse or anything like that. I think it was more just kind of behavioral issues. I'm not 100% sure on the details, so I'm just throwing that out there. That, like, because I don't know everything, I don't want to say that I back the new evangelicals, because I just don't know everything. So I'm not saying I don't back them either. But
I mean, I don't know fully either, but from my understanding, it was more of a dispute between a freelance worker that he had hired to do some work behind the scenes for the show, and he had pushed this worker a little bit too hard, demanding things, and it caused some disputes and essentially just kind of, spiraled a little bit more out of control. And that's my understanding of it. He has since come out with an episode talking about this, and that there's a report that you can find, and it's fully available and transparent on, I think, their website. I think you can get the link through there.
He said it was somewhere. I can't find it anywhere though. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure
that's why I don't know
reach out.
I got to do more research, but
contact or something at newevangelicals.com. But
I don't want the episode to become about that. Just, Mark seems to know more about it than I do. Maybe we'll drop some links in here. I just wanted to say I didn't know everything, so I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm fully on board. I'm certainly not against them. I know what I've heard of April on different stuff. I think she's amazing. So if you can get me in contact, I'd love to have her on the show. She's cool. But
yeah, I'd still love to have her on my show too. I haven't reached out yet about having her on my show, but I would love to. I think it'd be great too.
I do want to plug somebody I know enough about that I'm more comfortable plugging, especially if you're on Instagram. I don't know if he has a podcast, but Brian Recker. He does a lot of stuff just kind of showing what's going on in the church and kind of giving a really nuanced progressive perspective. Yeah. And just kind of how God's love is at work in the church today, and showing some of the faults and some of the evangelical stuff. We're a church unity podcast. We're not like against church unity. For me, this Easter, one of the most challenging things is this like ancient proverb that I heard in a Canaan song that's like just stuck in my head of like, it's better to light a candle than to curse the dark. And I'm like, man, what does that look like in today's world when the ones who are calling themselves a light, I think, are the ones that's casting shadows a lot of the time. But hey, we'll save that for your next episode. When people go over there and listen to Christian nationalism and they want to hear from you, they'll go over there. They'll hear it all. Or check out Brian Recker too. Do both of those things. He's great. Also, like your t-shirt, I think, says a lot too. You're a red letter Christian, not a red hat Christian. I love that. But since we're here to talk about Grub Grace, I wanted you to talk about. I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the episode you had Will Rose on, because our followers are familiar with him. Some about the episodes that me and you did together. And then if you could just pick like one episode that isn't one of those three, because, I don't want to feel like you have to pick those or feel bad when you don't pick those. That's like just like an episode that stands out to you that's really, for you, exemplifies what the show's about. You just plug one episode, what that would be. You want to walk through those?
Well, let's talk about Will first. So I did an episode talking about Captain America. Obviously, we mentioned that prior here, but we had him on. We talked about the new Captain America film that came out this year, The Brave New World. And we initially started talking about the film, and then we got very into politics and how it relates to the world and all the things that kind of go along with that. And I got some good feedback from it. I got some people saying, you brought up some really good points on a lot of that.
Yeah. The only thing is y'all did not like the movie enough. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
But y'all can fix that. Fix your opinions.
There was good things and bad things about the film, and I think there were aspects of it that I'm really glad they did, and there was aspects that didn't. You can listen to the whole episode. We can do that later.
Also, for those who are wondering, I am known as Josh with a bad opinion, so I just tease.
And then, of course, Joshua, we had you on. We just recorded one right before we were doing this. And so that'll come out at a later time. It usually takes about a month or so to get episodes out, usually with my schedule and whatnot. But we have one out right now on the show, and we talk about Christian Taoism or Taoism, Christianity, however you say that. But we talk about how Christianity and Taoism can, coexist in a beautiful union with each other without interfering with the core beliefs of the thing. And Taoism, of course, as you follow Joshua, you'll know that it isn't actually a religion. It's more of a spiritual beliefs and spiritual practice. So we talk about all that, and we even made some dishes and some food, and had a good time with that. So it was a lot of fun with that. As far as a show that really encapsulates the Grub Grace show, I think my Christian nationalism episode has the most views on it. The one show that people talk about the most, like if people say, I listened to your show and I really like this episode, it was the one with Nerdy Dan about AI and pop culture.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that I get the most comments on, of like, this was a fun episode. Like I really love, and I like the idea of AI. People are just interested in AI. So of course they were drawn to that episode, but I get a lot of comments on that one. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, man, before we do the stuff we usually do to wrap up and everything, is there any like one thing that you think maybe we didn't ask about that people would like to know about you, your show, or anything that, do we miss anything?
No, I mean, I try to open a space for, having dialogue, and I try to practice active listening. Not perfect at it, but I'm trying to allow my mind open to, hear ideas and to really listen to people and to explore all these different, you know, ideas and possibilities that people bring up, as opposed to being just stuck in the gutter, not stuck in the gutter, stuck in a rut and in just like one way of thinking about things. And the world is not black and white. It's multiple shades of gray, as well as a full rainbow of colors. So I think it's beautiful to explore the world as it is before us. So
yeah. Hopefully our listeners are aware that one of the big things for the network that we're a part of, Anazal Podcast Network, the whole church is a part of, is like, we don't want to be giving like these simple answers and these quick little devotions. It's like, there are other good shows for those things, but we're trying to ask the big questions, whether it be like the big questions of our fandom of like, is Superman stronger than Thor? Because like, that's a big question for some people. There are implications to that. Or whether it's the big question of like, can we have church unity with Christian nationalists, or can we have church unity with people who disagree on LGBTQ stuff? We try to ask big questions on all of our shows, and that's something that's important to me, is when someone's willing to ask the big questions. For me, that's more important than whether or not you're getting a good answer or a correct answer. I'd rather have a good question that I can leave with. And that's something I think Grub Grace does really well. So I really want to recommend all of our listeners, especially if you like our network, I think you'll love the Grub Grace show. So go check them out. And then one thing we always do, we always ask for if anybody has a God moment. And TJ makes me go first, always. I mean, it's easy. We just had Easter, right? So I think I already gave mine away. It's just that proverb I heard in the Canaan song. And then I went to my first Easter vigil this year, where you start at the campfire and we're lighting more and more lights as the service progresses, going from outside to the foyer to, the sanctuary, and just kind of seeing the light and then thinking it's not about cursing the dark. It's not about hey, Donald Trump is evil. I think it's important that we say stuff like that we are honest, calling evil, but cursing the dark, being man, I hate this. That doesn't do anything other than create more darkness. And then thinking about what does it mean to be a light in the dark? That's a little bit harder. So I guess mine's a challenge, and that's where I'm at. Mark, do you have any God moments you've had in recently?
I feel like I'm always having God moments. I always come into revelations of... And revelations in the sense of, uncovering information and learning. And I think through all these topics I talk about with all my guests, I think I'm constantly finding information that just really strikes me and speaks to me. The Sunday before Easter at our house of worship, they at the very end of the service, they did this special like choir type of moment. So the choir is typically in their choir areas, but this time they brought all of the choir people into the aisles around the church, and they started singing a song that basically was asking the question, where were you when Jesus was up on the cross? Mm-hmm. And the way they did it, it wasn't that everybody was singing. It was that one person was singing at a time, and then another person on the opposite side of the sanctuary. And of course, the size of the sanctuary from Theology Beer Camp. It's that church.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so the size of it and all the people around in the aisles, and people are one at a time are singing these verses and asking the question, where were you? And there was just something so solemn about it. And it was so powerful and moving. It kind of brought me to tears. And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm just rethinking about it. This is one of those powerful moments. And they just had, after they were done, they had everyone leave in silence. And it was one of those just it just moved me a lot. So I think that was probably my most recent, God moment that I had.
Yeah. Man, it's crazy. Where I had the Easter vigil, I went to Pastor Will's church, and that's where they had a theology beer camp 2 or 3 years ago too. Mm-hmm. So we both went to a theology beer camp church.
There you go.
For Easter. Yeah. One of the songs they did that was cool. I think it's the first time I ever heard it. Is it's liturgical. So it's a really short little chorus basically, but they were singing about different stuff that happened in the Bible, or different stuff that we might face, and then like the congregation will go, God's gonna trouble the waters, and it sounds a lot like Smoke on the Water to me for some reason. But it was just cool because, you know, sometimes I tend to think of like, what can I do? How am I being God in the world? And it's kind of fun to kind of just think of like, even though this stuff is happening, God's gonna trouble the waters, and I might not know what that looks like. And I don't know. That to me gave me hope, because right now I'm like, I can't see anything that I can do, and to remember that sometimes it isn't just about what I can do. So anyway, yeah, we could go on forever. I love talking to Mark. He's a great guy. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, share it with a friend, enemy, cousin, one of those, especially your cousins, you know. I don't know what other things TJ says. I always struggle with this part. But if you don't mind, maybe like, rate and review the show on a podcast on Podchaser's cool, but I was trying to say Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can leave a comment on there now too, so let us know what you think, and make sure you check out Mark's show, Grub Grace. Subscribe over there as well. I think it's a wonderful show. Of course, check out other shows in our network. We always have to plug them. So the homily with Pastor Will, we're going to try and get that Easter homily up soon. Check out Let Nothing Move You with Christian Ashley. You want a little bit more conservative take on the Bible, or if you want a more progressive take on the Bible After Hours has a good one coming up, I hear. Or that probably just happened. I don't know. Recording times are weird. But you know, check all those shows out. It's a fun time. Coming up soon on our show, we're going to be having... I'm going to try to actually get Brecker on, Brian Recker on the show, because I think he's written a book recently that I want people to check out on hell. Shayna Watson, she's been on our show before. She's been a year at the Trinity Anglican Church, International Church in Washington, D.C. We're going to try to have her back on. We have a big roundtable coming up talking about that job fair series that we did. We have a lot of fun stuff in the works. Hope you all check it out. And of course, go over to Grub Grace. Check out some of the fun stuff he mentioned he has coming up, as well as we have a video game and food conversation coming that I'm a part of. So make sure you don't miss that. And I hope you guys did enjoy the show. I was trying to, how do we finish this? Something about Francis Chan being the end of season 1. Yeah, that's how it works. But you guys have to tell him, because we're never going to do it. We are way too lazy for that. You guys reach his people, our people reach him, but you're our people. So good luck.
Thank you for listening to the Whole Church Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, you can always sponsor our efforts to educate and unite the church on Captivate, Patreon, or Apple Podcast. If you're not into the subscription thing, again, you can leave a one-time tip on our Captivate website down below in the description notes. Thank you again, and please come back next week.